Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen of District 32 here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room at the Bank Saloon. Coverage of the 2021 Nevada legislative session is brought to you by Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. Ahern Rentals is ready for your next project. Liberty Dental Plan, making members shine one smile at a time. And Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from Carson City in the Bank Saloon conference room. We are pleased to welcome back to the program Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen of District 32. Pleasure to have you back on the program.
It's so nice to be here and in the Bank Saloon. I don't get in bars much, but to be in the historic Jack's Bar is quite an honor, and they've done an incredible job. So
well, and I'm pleased that you're one of the few legislators that didn't ask if we could open the bar up early before we started the show. And I'm kidding about that, of course. You sit on Education, Judiciary, and Natural Resources.
I do.
Let's start out with the news yesterday that broke, of course, which is the numbers coming in from the Economic Forum. Looks like roughly $500 million additional revenue. Your thoughts on how this should be spent?
Wow, that's a nice big bucket of money to get to think about how I'd like it distributed. Yeah, it was good news considering what a difficult year 2020 has been for everybody. Of course, some of the things I'd like to see earmarked. I actually have one real special one. I represent 7 counties, 6 of them rural, and Esmeralda County, the beautiful historic courthouse with the jail is in need of money to upgrade their jail. We were hoping maybe some COVID recovery money on the national level. But for the Economic Forum numbers, certainly always we're talking about education. I would love to see opportunity scholarships put back to some of its original funding. There's I hope we'll be very targeted, and that we'll also have accountability metrics in place for how we spend money. I think that's just a reasonable request. So yes, we were certainly very happy to hear that the Economic Forum numbers were as good as they were.
Do you want to see things that are more one-shot type money? Because we've got all this federal money coming in as well, potentially close to $3 billion. Wow. And would you rather see one-shot type deals or ongoing programs?
I think probably a mix of both. As I mentioned, the Esmeralda County Jail definitely would be a one-shot infusion to help them build a new facility. Opportunity scholarships would be an ongoing. And yesterday we had a vote on domestic violence and sexual assault victim programs and continued funding and increased funding, which I completely support. I just had a problem with the funding mechanism of using marriage licenses, which is plateauing, and not as stable. So I proposed other ways to fund that, and one of them was maybe a one-time shot to help them in this growth phase. Unfortunately, you don't like to think about the numbers increasing, but they are, and the advocates are doing the best they can with the limited amount of funds they have in funding those programs. So I would like to see an infusion of that, and to have such amount of money coming in, I think we're going to have to be very careful about how we distribute it, and again, have accountability for where those funds go.
When I first started doing this program, and this is going back almost 20 years now, the call from the education associations was basically, we need $1 billion more for education. Now they're talking $2 billion more needed for education, and this is despite the fact that we have continued to pump money into education over the years. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, Sam, I have a lot of opinions about that, because
and we have time.
Okay, that has been my concern. Yes, we need money to fund education, and we have pumped money into it. And I come from a private sector business sort of business model, and I think that I just make the analogy that in my business, we own a plumbing company. If we are putting money into something, but we're not getting the return on our investment, then we have to analyze, what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, and be willing to make the changes that are needed. Sometimes I think the districts are hamstrung, sometimes maybe they want to do things on more of a local level, but then we have kind of a top-down approach. Certainly the unions play a big role in that, and negotiations and how funds are spent. On salaries and benefit programs, and so I just think the more accountability, particularly in education, we can have. We put the money here, now what does that look like over a certain period of time? And unfortunately, we're not seeing the return on our investment. It would be argued that maybe we're not putting enough into, but the stats show we have put more money into education every single year, every single decade. Somewhere in the system, there's a breakdown. An audit, accountability studies, and those are some of the things we're addressing in the legislature. So I'm hoping that we'll get some of these answers.
How do you think COVID is playing into all of this? Because of the inability for kids to be able to go to school for so long. I mean, that's turning around now. But how do you think that change is going to help us move forward and help us grow in education?
Well, there certainly were things we've learned, good and bad, with the pandemic. I think technology in lots of other areas, like working from home, having those kinds of options that we didn't really use a lot before, we were forced to. But with the distance learning, that was a model that I think has worried a lot of us. And for instance, in Clark County, those children haven't been in school until just recently. So for well over a year, not any in-person learning. In my opinion, it was very fortunate that in Washoe County and in the rural districts, they opted by their school boards and with the approval of the superintendents to put kids back in school, which I fully supported. And it was a big leap for them, and they listened to the experts, and I'm really proud of what Washoe County and the rural counties did in getting kids on at least a hybrid model to get them back in-person learning and to be able to see those kids. There's been concern that there were kids that weren't able to engage and be connected correctly. Now, they did overcome some of those issues in Clark County. I know in the rural districts, connectivity is an ongoing issue. And in the rural districts, they did yeoman's work in those school districts to make sure kids were getting packets if they weren't able to connect. So I do want to acknowledge the great work that was done, but have we had a learning loss? I think there's no doubt. And just not only on an academic level, this social, the emotional health of our children has been a very big concern about this disconnection from actually being in school. And I think we've seen some of the results of that, unfortunately, in the news.
One of the things that's been promoted for a long time, especially in rural Nevada, is expanding broadband. This has really brought this home now. So when the federal government is talking about infrastructure, this is a really important area, is it not?
Absolutely, and this is a bipartisan issue, and I would give credit to the national delegation has worked hard on this in the rural counties to try to find a way to bridge this broadband gap. I am feeling excited. I tend to follow some of Elon Musk's incredible genius sorts of inventions, pursuits, and he right now has Starlink, which he's been using SpaceX to launch those satellites, and they're rolling out a pilot program that seems to be working in the United Kingdom, where access to the internet through Starlink is based on satellites, and I really am thinking that maybe we're going to have a private sector solution to a worldwide problem, because the goal was to provide the internet to countries and people regardless of where you lived, to be able to have that in the United States, especially in rural districts, would just be transformative. So I think we're on the brink of getting there, and grateful for that technology that might be coming our way.
And this is something that's been going on for probably 25 years. Iridium was an original idea back then of having a certain amount of satellites around the globe that would beam down and allow people to access internet from everywhere. Now it's finally coming to fruition to where the public would be able to use it. I want to pick up on a couple of things here in terms of bipartisanship. One is that it's fascinating to me to see our congressional delegation, led by Catherine Cortez Masto, to really make or attempt to make inroads into rural Nevada and provide help. Has that surprised you? Because, let's face it, on a political basis, rural Nevada very red, the delegation, with the exception of Mark Amodei, very blue.
Correct. I believe in giving credit where credit is due. And, I appreciate those efforts, because in rural Nevada, and rural Nevada appreciates those efforts. I think if you really are committed to the state of Nevada, I care about Las Vegas. I live in Sparks. I represent 38,000 square miles in 7 counties of a lot of rural Nevada. And so I think our motives always should be what's best for Nevada. And I think this is where the breakdown has been, unfortunately, is when the national Democratic agenda became the focus rather than Nevada being the focus. I think that's when we start to break down. When we have bipartisanship, it's when we get back to our old roots, where, whether it be the Raggios, the Deeneys, that it was what's best for Nevada. Because Nevada Democrats and Nevada Republicans aren't necessarily what the National Democrat Party or National Republican Party are. And that, I think, is what we're seeing when we see the national delegation, Senator Masto worrying about, Cortez Masto worrying about what's going on in rural Nevada. That is the model that I'd like to see, that it's more about what's good for Nevada, absent the national agendas.
Assemblyman Andy Matthews was on the program, and of course he worked for MPRI for a long time as a commentator. And I asked him, the difference between running for office and actually being in office. And one of the things he talked about was somewhat of a surprise of how much bipartisanship there is at the legislature, and that was a big surprise to him. You're working with Dallas Harris, the state senator, on a project. She talked about it here on the program. You want to elaborate a little bit on that? And you two politically could not be more diverse,
right? And
yet you're working together.
Thank you for asking about that. Yeah, that for me too. Even though I've been around the process a lot, I too have been encouraged that we kind of get our ideas before we get elected, and then you get in that seat, and it can be very humbling. And I have enjoyed the opportunity to get to know all my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. And I say this often in private conversations, You know, I really enjoy a lot of my Democrat colleagues. I would love to have them over for dinner. I would love to hang out with them. It's our politics or our take on policy is where we a lot of times, not always, where we break company. And there's nothing wrong with being able. I think that's the problem that's happened over the last decade or so, is there's been this breakdown that somehow we have to act as if those on the other side of the aisle have horns, that they can never have good policy. And that's just not true. About 80% or more of our legislation in the legislature is bipartisan. You know, they've had great bills have come from Democrats regarding child support and other issues, compensation for wrongly convicted prisoners in Nevada. So when we can kind of push aside this notion that just because you have a D or an R behind your name, somehow, you know, I can't have anything to do with them or even party up with them, and some sort of legislation is wrong. And being able to co-sponsor the Reasonable Childhood Independence Bill with Senator Harris has really been a pleasure, and I think shows that we can get behind good policy regardless of our party affiliation.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back with more with Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen after this timeout.
Located in the heart of Carson City, the Bank Saloon, a historic watering hole with a modern feel. With a variety of classic cocktails, featuring Nevada spirits, space for private events, conferences, and an incredible atmosphere. The Bank Saloon offers a great location to work and play. Come visit us. Located at the corner of 5th and Carson. We'll save you a drink.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. Toll's Development.
The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your air conditioner breaks down today. We fix it today. Why sweat for days while your air is down, when Nevada Heating can get the job done today, and you can get cool again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 or see us online at nevadaheating.com.
Serving Our Kids Foundation's mission is to serve homeless, at-risk, and food insecure children in grades K through 8 throughout Southern Nevada. During the pandemic, Serving Our Kids has seen a 42% increase in the number of children served, providing more than 4,500 meals to kids in over 100 schools weekly. Serving Our Kids is powered by community support and volunteers. To learn how you can help, visit servingourkids.org.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen of District 32. Not much discussion outside of the private conferences, but maybe you can shed a little light on the discussions going on with mining taxes and gaming taxes and potentially getting things off the ballot. Can you share anything with us?
The discussions are ongoing, and so yeah, I'm not privy to a ton of information, but that there are conversations being had, and I think all of us will, just have to wait and hopefully see where that all lands. And of course, my district covers a lot of mining, and a lot of those districts are very dependent on mining as their lifeblood, and my family's been here for 5 generations and came here for mining. I haven't been in mining for generations, but I'll be very interested in paying very close attention to how those talks finally end up presenting themselves.
Do you think that there is a possibility that these initiative petitions can be removed from the ballot if a deal is struck?
Well, that I guess that would be my hope, is that there can be, that the the petitions don't go forward. But this is what, the people do behind the scenes that I'm not a part of. And certainly I have hope that maybe there can be a win-win, and I'm hoping that's what happens. But as of right now, I really truly don't have a whole lot of information other than negotiations are taking place, and it would be irresponsible of me to speculate where that might land. I wouldn't want to jeopardize any sort of negotiation.
All right, let's talk about natural resources for a second. Part of the discussion around smart cities was, and for the innovation zone for blockchains, was water from Gerlach having the ability to be moved to Story County. Just a brief thought on that.
Well, that certainly was a no-go for me, no-go for my district, no-go because a lot of the tribes are within my district, and they're very uncomfortable with that, and rightly so. And so I'm kind of hoping that this innovation zone is being put on the back burner. This is not the time for us to deal with that. Coming out of a pandemic and with all the things we're having to deal with, we can't even deal with redistricting. So I'm hoping that we don't have to visit that at all. Do we have to come back later in a special session remains to be seen. But certainly,
there's going to be at least a couple of special sessions.
Oh, for sure, for redistricting.
And also for the allocation of the federal money.
Exactly.
They call it the Biden bucks.
Exactly. So, no, I was not a fan, still not a fan, but there's a lot more vetting that needs to go on if we're going to talk about innovation zones.
If you were to take the temperature of the building at this point in time, do you think that if the innovation zone as presented were to come up in a special session, do you think it would pass or fail?
Oh, as of right now, no. It just depends what information's out there. I just think the whole idea of a private person having their own ability to have a county, a government, whether they're going to pass it off and have some other model later on, it just kind of goes against the grain. I'm all for being innovative. I completely support new ideas and thinking outside the box. But I don't know that this is necessarily the route we go. But again, that's why we need to have more time to be able to think about this, talk about this, and vet this.
All right, let's take another break and we'll be right back.
Tamarack Casino is giving away 2 Mercedes-Benz during the $125,000 Benz or cash giveaways. Plus, players get 5 times points on video reels every Friday. Win 2 Mercedes-Benz now through May at Tamarack Casino.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Come visit Design Outdoor's store and backyard to see our wide selection of fire pits, barbecues, and pizza ovens, natural stone water features and fountains, and frost-proof pottery. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Tamarack Casino is giving away 2 Mercedes-Benz during the $125,000 Benz or cash giveaways. Plus, players get 5 times points on video reels every Friday. Win 2 Mercedes-Benz now through May at Tamarack Casino.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen, Republican of District 32. So the toughest question I have to ask you is what is going on with Edgar Flores, Democrat, and Ira Hansen, Republican, being aligned with their suits? What is going on?
Well, that was a fun, spontaneous thing that happened in the 2019 session. Senator Hansen has a light-colored linen suit that he likes to wear when the weather gets warmer, and Assemblyman Flores has one as well, and they happened to show up on this one day in 2019 wearing that suit, and people kind of joked and said, "You look like Colonel Sanders." So they decided to run with it and decided to run to Kentucky Fried Chicken and pass out chicken. So this year it was a coordinated effort. But one, you know, if you don't have those light moments and that camaraderie, you would lose your mind sometimes here in the legislature. And so those are kind of the moments that bring a little bit of levity that we all need, and friendship on display.
And well said. Thank you so much for doing this. You're always welcome.
Oh, thank you so much.
And we'll be right back.
Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Kenny! Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow! This stuff is great! People are gonna love it!
Yes. Yes, they will.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
As always, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers on television, radio, audio and video podcasts, and YouTube. We'll see you on the next broadcast coming to you from Carson City. See you then.